Welcome to News Now Alberta. This is Special Ed. We're going back to Toronto. It's a toss-up which is the worst between Toronto and Edmonton officers, but it's not a competition. We are talking about a senior officer that used her influence to get her nephew out of an accident issue. She let the officer there shut off his body cam and let her nephew go without a breathalyzer, even though he hit a pole coming out of an intersection.
He says he's not hurt.
Police Inspector Joyce Schertzer on body camera footage after her nephew's vehicle collided with a pole outside the Boulevard Club on the lakeshore in May 2022. The high-ranking officer said she was only there as an aunt, but a disciplinary tribunal didn't buy it, finding her guilty of discreditable conduct and neglect of duty. The adjudicator, retired Superintendent Lisa Taylor, said regardless as to whether Inspector Schertzer believed her presence on scene was only as aunt, her duty as a senior officer eclipsed that role. Actions and inactions at the scene were inappropriate given her rank over the constable and given her relationship with the driver. The disciplinary tribunal heard the inspector had called for a constable from her division to respond to the crash. Then she didn't stop the officer from turning off his body-worn camera for a period of time, and she allowed her nephew Calvin to leave the scene without a breathalyzer test. In her decision, Taylor said Calvin may have had zero blood alcohol at the time of the collision, but we will never know. Ultimately, Calvin was called back to the scene to complete the traffic investigation.
You're very fortunate that you have family members who have helped this go away in the big scheme of things, right?
Body camera footage from a second traffic officer highlighting how unusual it was that Calvin had been allowed to leave in the first place. The adjudicator found no collusion between Schertzer and the initial constable, but ruled that with Schertzer's 35 years as an officer, she should have known better. You circumvented the priority system to the benefit of yourself and your family, Taylor said, calling the initial investigation of the collision lackluster and less than stellar, and said those failings are hard to separate from the potential influence of a senior officer being at the scene.
Well, it is important that the methods that are in place to hold police officers, no matter what their rank, are working.
The Toronto Police Accountability Coalition says it's an important decision, highlighting the subtle influence high-ranking officers can wield, even with advancements in oversight technology like body-worn cameras.
If their intention is to hide what they are doing, that they can easily manipulate this equipment. And I do think it really should open up a bigger conversation about our reliance on tools like body cameras to ensure accountability. We're talking about a police culture. We're talking about the notion that there are some people who are worthy of being treated with deference, that are worthy of being given the benefit of the doubt.
Inspector Joyce Schertzer was called to the scene by her daughter, who is a constable in Toronto Police, telling her Schertzer's nephew had been in a collision, so it's a whole family cover-up. The nephew should have had a breathalyzer since he was coming out of the Boulevard Club at 1491 Lakeshore Boulevard West in the city's West End. So he was coming out of a bar, and you don't find out if he's too drunk to drive or not. She even let her nephew leave the scene until a traffic cop called him back to the scene. The first officer that arrived was called by the detective because he was in her division. In the video, the truck can be seen making a left onto a busy roadway before narrowly missing a car that was heading east. The truck then proceeded into the grassy median to the north before slamming into a pole. Doherty was sent to the scene following a call from Schertzer, even though the crash took place outside her division's jurisdiction. Schertzer previously testified she was unaware the club was outside that boundary and that she did not specifically request an officer from her division. She also attended the scene. Body camera footage captured some of Doherty's investigation, including when he deemed no criminality took place and allowed Calvin to leave. Doherty previously testified that he asked for Schertzer's permission to turn off his body camera. Taylor said Wednesday she cannot fathom why Schertzer would have allowed the camera to be turned off. It's hard to unpack all the lies being told here by the detective. because she did request that officer did so many things that she knew was wrong. The fact that she said that she didn't know that the club was out of her division when she's been a cop for so many years. Clark previously testified he could smell alcohol on Calvin's breath. The tribunal heard Calvin had been drinking the night before the crash at the Boulevard Club, where he had left his car overnight. Taylor said that having reviewed the evidence and video related to the investigation, she was satisfied that Calvin was not impaired by alcohol or drugs, but also said she had questions about whether not his blood alcohol level was zero, as is conditioned in his G2 license. During a penalty submission hearing on Monday, police prosecutor Scott Hutchinson asked that Schertzer be demoted one rank from inspector to staff sergeant, with an automatic return to inspector after a year. Defense argued Schertzer lost the opportunity to be promoted to superintendent due to this incident, costing her $40,000 a year in increased salary since 2022. Demoting Schertzer to staff sergeant would for a year would cost her another $21,000 and impact her pension, the defense said. Oh, boo-hoo, she deserves more than that. She is lucky to still have a job. Her defense lawyer was hoping to get 5 days without pay. Final decision has not been made of what the penalty would be by the time this video was made, but I do hope she at least gets the demotion and loses all that money. A reprimand, 5 days of lost pay would be a total joke. What do you think her penalty should be? Let me know in the comments. Please check out our Patreon, where for $1 a month, you can get my videos a week in advance with other perks coming. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.